Okay, let's unpack this. We're taking a deep dive today into the life and really extensive career of a key figure from Jordan, Dr. Ahmad Thougan Hindawi.
That's right. Someone who's really left a significant mark, particularly on the economic side of things.
Definitely. We've looked at, biographical info, professional profiles, even some reflections on his work.
Trying to piece together that journey, yeah. Over 25 years in leadership, both government and the private sector, too.
So our mission, if you like, is to walk through that path, pull out the key moments, the achievements, what really stands out.
Especially, I think, in areas like economic development, trade, standards, that kind of thing. Institutional excellence comes up a lot.
Exactly. Think of this as your guide, really, to understanding the footprint he's left, both in Jordan and, well, beyond.
And what I find fascinating looking through the material is how it points to this foundation of, technical thinking applied really broadly.
Across different sectors, yeah. But always with this focus on strategic improvement, getting tangible results. And to really get that unique approach, it helps to look at where he started, his academic background.
Which, as you said, isn't maybe what you'd immediately expect for someone ending up in, say, trade policy.
Not at all. He kicked off with a Bachelor of Science. Get this, aeronautical and astronautical engineering from Purdue in the US.
Wow, okay. Aerospace engineering.
Yeah, that demands incredible precision, right? Complex systems thinking, understanding how all the tiny parts fit together.
Absolutely, a very rigorous foundation. And then he sort of pivoted, did a master's in industrial engineering and industrial management back at the University of Jordan.
Ah, okay, so still engineering, but more towards management.
And his project then was on strategic planning for the telecom sector. So starting to bridge that gap between the technical and the managerial.
Taking that engineering mindset and applying it to optimizing systems, but in an industry context now. Yeah.
And then the PhD, that was at the University of Birmingham, went even deeper into management. He specialized in restructuring policies for productive sectors in developing countries.
Okay, that's quite specific.
Yeah, his dissertation actually developed a model, the TQM Total Quality Management and Strategic Planning Assessment Model, specifically designed for developing economies.
So you can really see the progression from the nuts and bolts of aerospace to industrial systems, and then these big strategic frameworks for national development.
It almost maps directly onto the kind of challenges he tackles later in his career. It seems like that path really set him up.
It feels like he took that engineering rigor and just applied it to these much bigger, messier systems of national policy and how organizations perform.
Gave him a unique lens, definitely.
A really specific way of looking at things.
Precisely. And that combination, that blend, positioned him perfectly, you could argue, to lead initiatives focused on structure, improvement, measuring performance across all sorts of different environments.
Okay, so let's take that foundation and jump into his government career in Jordan. Pretty substantial period, 1989 to 2005.
Right, and this was a time of huge economic shifts for Jordan, a really crucial period.
And he was right in the thick of it. Held increasingly senior roles, right? Started at Ministry of Planning.
Yep, then through the Industrial Development Department, Assistant Secretary General at Ministry of Industry and Trade.
Then Director General of the Standards Institution, JISM.
And eventually, Minister of Industry and Trade, a really steady climb through key economic ministries.
And the sources, they really emphasize his involvement in Jordan's economic liberalization during that time, integrating into the global economy.
Yeah, it wasn't just high-level talk. The material suggests a very hands-on role in developing and, crucially, overseeing policies that were genuinely transformative for Jordan's trade and industry.
Implementation, not just strategy.
Exactly.
And there are concrete examples mentioned, like leading the development of Jordan's industrial policy.
But maybe even more impactful, overseeing amendments to a whole raft of Jordanian laws.
Things like competition law, intellectual property, anti-dumping.
Safeguard laws, too, all specifically to align them with WTO requirements. World Trade Organization.
That legislative heavy lifting, that sounds absolutely critical.
It was. Think of the WTO rules as the kind of global standard for trade. Getting Jordan's laws in line meant the country could properly engage. It opened up markets.
Makes sense.
And the sources actually describe his leadership then at the Ministry of Industry and Trade as visionary and energetic.
High praise.
Yeah, saying he played a very conducive role in some major national milestones.
Like Jordan actually joining the WTO, that's huge.
Absolutely. And signing those major trade agreements, The European Partnership Agreement, the Arab Great Free Trade Agreement.
And the big one, perhaps, the free trade agreement with the U.S.
Right. These weren't just pieces of paper. They had massive implications for Jordan's economy, opening up enormous new markets for Jordanian goods.
Which requires not just the policy vision, but also getting the technical details right, doesn't it? Those details that can either help or hinder trade.
Exactly. Which raises a good point. How did he handle that technical side, particularly standards, which often get overlooked but are so important for market access?
Well, that brings us neatly to his time leading Jordan's Standards and Metrology Organization, JISM, Director General from 2000 to 2004.
Okay.
And here, he apparently spearheaded this massive job of amending 1,200 Jordanian standards.
1,200. Wow.
Yeah, the scale is pretty staggering. And the goal, according to what we've seen, was to make sure these standards were fully harmonized with international ones.
Okay, so speaking the same language, essentially.
Precisely. And crucially, making sure they didn't act as, like, hidden barriers to trade, technical barriers.
Right. By adopting those global norms for quality and safety, Jordanian companies could export much more easily. It removes an obstacle.
Exactly. The sources note this step significantly boosted the competitiveness of Jordanian industries, both at home and internationally.
It really shows that deep understanding, doesn't it? That market access isn't just about tariffs. It's also about meeting those quality expectations embedded in standards.
But his focus wasn't only outwards, on trade. He was also pushing programs to boost competitiveness within Jordan.
Yes, this is where it gets particularly interesting, I think. The sources specifically credit him with launching the King Abdullah II Award for Excellence for the private sector.
Right, he spearheaded that back in '98 when he was heading the Industrial Development Directorate.
In this award, it's not just a trophy. It's described as being based on excellence and strategic planning concepts.
So, like, giving companies a framework, a benchmark based on global best practices and management operations.
Exactly. And it seems to have had a real impact. The sources say it played paramount importance in encouraging Jordanian industries to, continuously improve, focus on customers, enhance their competitiveness overall.
Fostering a culture of quality, really.
Yes, across the private sector.
And it seems he practiced what he preached, so to speak. Under his leadership, the Ministry of Industry and Trade won that same award, well, the government version, in 2005.
And Jordan Standards Institution won it in 2003, also while he was leading it. Both took first place.
Winning the top award for the very institutions you're leading. That's a pretty powerful statement.
It really is. The sources point to it as demonstrating his impeccable leadership and management style, leading to real, measurable improvements in public sector performance.
Okay, so after this really long and clearly impactful run in government, shaping policies, building institutions, then came a big shift.
Yes. Around 2006, Dr. Hindawi moved into the private sector. He set up his own regional management consultancy.
Hindawi Excellence Group, HEG, based out of Dubai.
And its focus aligns perfectly with everything we've just discussed from his government time. TQM, strategic planning, HR, process management, financial management.
So taking all that know-how built at the national level in Jordan
and applying it to help organizations across the region. The sources mention HEG worked with over 40 major clients, government and private, in the UAE and wider region over about 7 years.
Shows the demand for that kind of expertise, doesn't it? The transferability.
Definitely. And during that time, he also held other private sector leadership roles too, like chairing the executive committee of Sama Dubai for 3 years.
Which is an international real estate developer.
That's right, applying those strategic skills in a completely different industry.
What seems fascinating here is how his reputation clearly solidified beyond Jordan. He became this recognized regional expert in quality and strategic planning.
Yeah, he chaired the board of examiners for big awards like the Dubai Award for Government Excellence, and he continued chairing the King Abdullah II Award for Private Sector Excellence back in Jordan for multiple cycles.
And consulted for other national awards too. Sheikh Khalifa Award in the UAE, the Egypt Award for Excellence.
His influence really spread, helping other countries implement similar frameworks for driving improvement.
And connecting back to that foundation we talked about, the sources also mention his certifications. ISO 9000, ISO 14000 lead auditor.
Right, quality management and environmental management systems. These aren't just badges. They show a deep, practical grasp of these internationally recognized frameworks, how they actually work inside an organization.
So it's not just high-level theory, it's grounded in the technical specific.
Exactly, rigorous, certified knowledge.
Now, beyond his main jobs, The sources list a huge number of boards and committees he served on over the years.
Oh yeah, quite extensive. Looking at the board memberships, you see continued engagement with institutions really central to Jordan's economy. Arab Industrial and Mining Organization, Jordan Agency for Economic Development,
Jordan Export Promotion Corporation, Jordan Industrial Estates, lots of key bodies.
and often in leadership roles on those boards, like heading the Jordan Investment Board, chairing steering committees like the Jordan Upgrading and Modernization Program, GUMP.
So not just participating, but leading.
Right. And his committee work, too, focusing on things like SME development or specific tax issues for industry. It shows this continued hands-on involvement in practical policy challenges.
Even going way back, the sources note he was on the negotiating team for World Bank loans for telecoms in the 90s.
Shows that early involvement in really critical infrastructure finance.
It's clear his career wasn't just in one box. It touched so many parts of Jordan's economic system, and his influence continued regionally.
And importantly, it seems that expertise is still very much in demand. The sources mention him regularly giving lectures, workshops, to government leaders in Jordan currently.
Yeah, one source specifically highlights a recent lecture to leaders from various ministries' departments, described as the people relied on now for implementing Jordan's current modernization vision.
Which directly links his decades of experience in excellence and strategic performance right back to today's national priorities at the very highest levels.
It really shows a continued commitment, doesn't it? Applying those principles he championed throughout his career to the ongoing work of national development.
I think so. His journey, as we've pieced it together from these sources, really reflects someone who built this unique foundation.
That engineering and management blend.
Yeah, and applied that deep expertise across incredibly different but connected sectors. National policy, international trade, standards, organizational consulting, private sector leadership.
Achieving significant results along the way and continuing to share that knowledge.
Exactly. Driving improvement.
So, what does this all mean then? We've traced this really remarkable career path.
Started with that unique academic mix.
Right, engineering and management. Moved through these pivotal roles shaping Jordan's economy, driving huge trade deals, sorting out standards.
Launching and even winning those major national excellence awards.
And then taking that deep expertise and helping organizations across the region improve their game.
Yeah, the consistent thread seems to be this relentless focus on quality, strategic planning, institutional improvement.
Applied very practically, getting real results, earning recognition.
It's fascinating how that early sort of technical precision seems to have morphed into this very systematic way of tackling complex problems.
Whether it was massive national reforms or turning around an organization's performance.
Which kind of leads to a final thought, perhaps.
Go on.
Well, given this extensive experience he has, applying these principles of excellence to navigate really complex situations in both government and business, what lessons can maybe be drawn from that for implementing large-scale change or just fostering improvement in, say, organizations or even communities that you, the listener, might be involved in today?
How could those principles, maybe adapted, apply to the challenges we face now? Interesting question.
Something to think about, definitely.